Okay, greetings. My name is Bushman. I'm a young British ecologist and gardener / farmer in the Caribbean. I'm passionate about agroecology, the Kreyòl garden or Jadin Kreyòl, and permaculture. Today we're going to be touring my garden, reasoning about the different plants and why I plant the way I plant. And I'm going to be showing you different plants and what they're good for. So welcome to my garden. We're going to have a little walk around. This is a Kreyòl garden, or as we would say in Creole or French, Jadin Kreyòl, which is a tradition which goes back a few hundreds of years and was developed over the centuries with several waves of migrations. So it really started with the Arawak population of Guadeloupe because they were the first inhabitants. They would have brought various plants from the Amazon, which we still have and we still cultivate today. After the Arawaks, we had the Pollinators who took their place, who also would have brought various plants from the Amazon. Then we had the Europeans, who would have brought the European colonialists who would have brought some plants, and very shortly after the Africans arrived, who brought many plants to the Caribbean. And then fast forward 200 years or so, after the abolition of slavery, we had Indian indentured laborers who came to the Caribbean from India to replace the enslaved on the plantations. They also brought many things to the Caribbean, which you now see in the Kreyòl garden. So it was developed over many years. The Kreyòl garden, according to me, is permaculture before permaculture, because permaculture is a new term which is much more popular than Kreyòl garden. Nobody knows Kreyòl garden, everybody knows permaculture. But permaculture was invented by some Australian guy not so long ago. But Jadin Kreyòl goes back long before that. So this is the ancestor, you know, the unsung hero of agroecology and permaculture and organic farming, etc. So like I said, welcome to my garden. We're going to start to take a little walk around and I'm going to show you the different plants that I have. Okay, so in one of my little patches of the Kreyòl garden, here we have some banana, but not just any kind of banana, because most people, the banana which they know about is the Cavendish banana. For example, Guadeloupe exports a lot of Cavendish banana, or locally they call it pollo. Most people in Europe don't even know how many types of banana you have. They don't even know plantain exists. This is red banana. So when this makes fruit, the skin will actually be red. If you know plants well, you will notice the color of the trunk is not the same as your average banana tree. Most of them are more clear. This one is more red, because just like the fruit, the fruit is red, the trunk is red. Some people call it banana tisane also, because they use it for some medicinal purposes. Just next to it, we've got some peppers. I actually got these seeds from Jamaica. I've harvested quite a few of them recently. We have a few left to pick before the next wave. So I got these seeds from Jamaica. A colleague of mine went to Jamaica. They call these Scotch bonnet, and in Creole they call this bon d'Amanjac. And this is something which is becoming quite rare, because similar to for the banana, agriculture is becoming something which we produce very, how would I say it, like very few in terms of variety and very much in terms of quantity. For the pepper, just like for the banana, whereas we have all these old varieties which are kind of disappearing. So that's part of what I try to do in my garden, is have diversity and preserve some of those old seeds. Right next to our two pepper trees, our bon d'Amanjac, just beneath we've got what they call in Creole pistache, or in English peanut. Now this is a very interesting plant for a few reasons. One is one of the few plants that will make a flower above the ground and make the fruit below the ground. That's why in Africa they call it ground nuts, because it's a nut that grows in the ground. But the main reason why this plant is very interesting, right, is because it's a leguminous plant, which essentially means it's one of the plants that has the capacity to capture atmospheric nitrogen and fix it into the soil via the roots. Because nitrogen is one of the most important elements for plants. It's actually what allows the leaves to be green. You see, these green leaves, they're green because they are finding enough nitrogen to be green. So this is essentially a natural fertilizer. You actually had an agronomist in the United States, in the South, back in the time of slavery, who regenerated the depleted soils, which were tired and exhausted from year after year of monocultures of cotton. They could not produce anymore, those soils were actually regenerated using peanuts. So I have them kind of all over my garden for the purpose of providing nitrogen for the plants that are around them. Here we have some sweet cassava, or in Creole they call it camanioc. It's a starchy root vegetable, similar to yam but with a different taste. It's slightly toxic, so you have to be careful when you prepare it. We can make flour from it, and even the leaves can actually be eaten. We don't tend to eat the leaves in the Caribbean, but in Africa, many cultures will eat the leaves like spinach. And just next to that camanioc there, we have what we call lemongrass, or what Jamaicans call fever grass, or what Guadeloupeans call citronelle. It's an excellent medicinal plant for when you have the fever, as the Jamaican name suggests, fever grass. But it's also good for stress and anxiety. If you make a tea from this, it will cool you down. And another use for this, traditionally speaking, is that when it's dry, not when it's green like this, you can burn it and the scent will chase away all mosquitoes from your property. Some people, including myself, actually use it for incense when it's dry. Right next to the citronelle, we have another medicinal plant. This is what they call in Creole zep charpentier, or in English we call it carpenter's bush. It's an anti-inflammatory plant which traditionally, historically speaking in the Caribbean, was planted next to carpenters' workshops, because as you could imagine, being a carpenter, working with hammers and wood, you get splinters in your fingers, pieces of wood, little cuts, swollen fingers, maybe you hit your finger with the hammer. So this is an anti-inflammatory plant which is used medicinally, was used medicinally by the carpenters, and today can be used by anybody who has a swollen wound. I mean, I've been able to heal people and relieve them of pain with this plant before. When my mother had a swollen ankle, when my cousin had a car crash, you would just take this plant and you would mix it up in a blender and you would put it as a cataplasm. And as it leaks its juice onto the wound, it will relieve the pain and cause the swelling to come down. It's an excellent anti-inflammatory medicinal bush. It was also used in Guadeloupe by the enslaved. Since the 19th century, I've read that the enslaved Africans in Guadeloupe would actually use this bush to relieve themselves from the various pains that they would have from the back-breaking labor of working in the sugarcane fields.
You just grabs a leaf,
yeah, I mean,
and then
like,
rub it on you,
right? You literally just, I mean, you would take more than this if it was a real wound. You would literally just grab that, and you would either, if you don't have a blender, you could just beat it up, or if you have a blender, it's much quicker and easier. And you would just mix it up, and then let's say let's say my ankle is swollen, you would mix it up, and then you would literally put the mixed up plant on the ankle, and you would put a bandage around it, and then maybe every day or every 2 days you would put a fresh batch of carpenter bush onto your wound, and it will relieve the pain and it will cause the swelling to go down. It's an excellent anti-inflammatory bush.
Nice.
And right next door, we have pigeon peas, or what they call in Creole pois. Now these make edible peas, but I don't plant these to put the peas, to produce peas. I plant this as what we would call a companion plant, or in French they say plante de service. Essentially this, just like the peanut, is also a leguminous crop which has the ability to capture the nitrogen that is in the atmosphere and fix it into the soil. So for example, the carpenter's bush is right next to the pigeon peas. The carpenter's bush is benefiting from the nitrogen that is coming through the pigeon peas roots. And I also regularly cut the pigeon peas, as you can see right there. I cut this regularly and I let it grow back, and I put the leaves onto the soil because the leaves are equally rich in nitrogen. So that biomass boosts the microbial life of the soil. And as that organic matter mineralizes, I'm essentially slowly, naturally fertilizing my soil. Right next to our pigeon peas, we have got another little red banana plant. And you see right next to my little red banana plant, we have some basil, which is good for seasoning and can also be used medicinally for various things.
Yeah, it smells pretty strong actually.
Yeah.
As soon as I walked in, I smelled it. Not gonna lie.
I'm surprised you smelled it from so far. I know
did.
It's strong, but you were quite far to have smelled it. But I'm glad that my garden is able to give people the sweet sense of different herbs from so far. That's a joy to know. This is what we call tipei. It's another medicinal bush which is good for the stomach, for digestion. The elder people in Guadeloupe, they say it's good for cleaning out your body. But my grandfather always used to say this is good for your stomach. If you have any like digestive problems or anything like that, you make some tipei in a tea, and that will, you know, calm down your stomach. Right next door, we've got some flowers. This is what we call cosmos. Now these are flowers that I plant, they're also companion plants. I plant these so that the bees come into the garden, because the scientific term in French is plante mellifère. So they're plants that attract bees, and they're important in a garden because we're in an urban environment here. I don't know if you noticed, but there's not many trees across the street or many flowers across the street. So essentially I have to create my own ecosystem here to make sure that I have enough bees and pollinators, so that when I plant various crops that depend on pollinators to produce fruit, I will have them. So we have, how many? 1, 2, 3. We have numerous cosmos plants in the garden for that purpose, bringing the bees in, because they're very, very important. And just here, we have some more pistachio peanuts. They're kind of, I planted them by themselves for a while. You can see some of the flowers there, the little orange flowers. I don't know if you can see them.
Yeah.
So those little orange flowers will actually become peanuts. It's quite an interesting plant. Like, the flower will kind of dive under the ground and become a peanut. Like, it's if you haven't seen it, it's hard to imagine. That little orange flower is gonna dive underground and become a peanut underground. Whoa. That's why I said this is a very, very interesting plant. Not only does it fertilize naturally, it also makes a flower above the ground and then makes the fruit below the ground. So all these peanuts here will be fixing organic nitrogen into the soil for the benefit of the banana, of the basil, of the cosmos, of the tipei, and everything which is in my little agro ecosystem here. So that's the first little patch of the garden. Here we have what we call in Kreyòl zabuka, or what Jamaicans call pear, or what most of the world calls avocado. No matter what you call it, it's the same creamy goodness. These are actually producing fruit too early due to climate change. They used to make, because I've been coming here since I was a child, they used to make fruit later in the year.
For sure.
The mangoes used to produce first and the avocados after. Now the climate is unbalanced. Things are not making fruit in their season anymore. And also, the avocado tree is useful not only for the fruit, but also the leaves are medicinal for various things, including diabetes. And the seed is also medicinal for diabetes, amongst other things. I just thought I'd mention that because I advocate for the holistic use of plants. We're often trained to use one part of a plant, like the avocado tree. Most people would think it just gives me avocados. No, it gives you more than that. It gives you a seed which can be used for nutrition and medicine, and it gives you leaves which can be used for medicine, and the herbs, the leaves of the trees, are for the healing of the nations.
I have to say, for me, avocado, I only know the virtue for skin and hair.
Yeah, like avocado oil and the masks that people make.
Exactly.
But it's so much more
so
than
much
that.
more, huh? I bet.
I was reading a book just the other day. I bought a book about the different Kreyòl plants, Caribbean plants, which we can use to fight against diabetes. And the avocado seed and the avocado leaf is amongst the things we can use to fight against diabetes. And this is something that has been studied. These are not things I'm making up or things that my grandmother told me, you know.
Yeah.
These are things that pharmacists have studied and written in books, you know. But unfortunately in the Caribbean, a lot of us don't know these kind of things, and a lot of us suffer from diabetes. Like my grandfather suffered from diabetes, and I didn't know at the time. Like I said, I only read the book the other day. We have at least five plants in this garden that can be used medicinally against diabetes. But despite that, my grandfather was taking synthetic medication for diabetes, you know. So part of me sharing this knowledge is to try and help the people go in the right direction, get closer to nature, and be less dependent upon imports and laboratories and boats when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to food. Because the message I'm trying to put out there is that we have everything that we need right here. We just need to study our environment and take the time to kind of tune in and live in harmony with it. Yeah, we got quite a few avocados. I mean, like I said, they're coming early, but I'm not gonna complain. We gotta live with climate change. At least they're making avocados, right? It could be worse.
Yeah, we need them avocados.
Yeah, we need them, man. I've been waiting all year round for avocado season. A lot of the time when it's not avocado season, I'll have a meal and I'll just be thinking to myself, you know what? The only thing missing from this meal is a little piece of avocado. But I also believe in seasonal eating. So despite the fact that they do sell imported avocados in the shops, I don't buy avocados when they're not in season because I believe nature gives us what we need when we need it. I mean, that's a bit of a contradiction because today climate change, but you get the point. So here we have some red hibiscus, which people can use for skincare and hair care. I, to be honest, do not use it. I just let it be a decorative ornamental plant. But I'm planning to start using it. One time a Rasta woman showed me how to make shampoo with hibiscus and other plants. And I would like to start doing that kind of stuff because like I say, I'm all about self-sufficiency. And just below the hibiscus, we've got a medicinal plant which smells just like lemongrass. The Latin name is Lipia alba. The local name, well, we have 3 local names, funnily enough. The Guadeloupeans call it tuatas, millefleur, or what do they call it? Verveine brisée. Brisée, that's the other name. So this plant is very good for the cold, which is where the name tuatas comes from. Because traditionally speaking, when you had a cold, they would say you should take 3 leaves of this plant and make a cup of tea, and you would have 3 cups of tea containing 3 leaves of the tuatas three times a day. That's where the name tuatas comes from. Because tuatas means 3 cups.
Yeah.
So, but this plant is not only good for the cold, it's also very good for anxiety, which is actually what I use it for, right? You can make a tea and it's very calming, or you can literally just break off some of it and kind of crush the leaves, and literally as you take the scents, the molecules are going directly into your brain, going past what we call the blood-brain barrier, and they have a very calming effect. They calm the nerves. So when I feel a little anxious or stressed, I break off a little of this and I just breathe it in. And I would encourage anybody who has access to the plant to do the same thing instead of going to the pharmacy for a medication for stress or for sleeping or for anxiety or etc. Because like I said, we have everything we need at home. We just need to know how to use it. When
did your love for nature and everything come?
I mean, it's hard to really put a finger on it precisely because I grew up in an urban environment. I didn't grow up on a farm. I mean, my Caribbean family has always been into nature, but that's something I would only experience when I was on holiday for maybe 2-3 weeks a year. Growing up in Luton, I wasn't really a Zion person like that. I would say from around 16 years old I was interested, but I didn't have access to land or to the stuff I would have needed to actually put it into practice. But I was watching a lot of videos on the internet about farming and medicinal. That's when I started to get interested, around 16 years old. But I started to actually practice this kind of lifestyle at 18 years old, about 5 years ago, when I first moved to Guadeloupe for the first time, because that is when I had access to the medicinal plants, to the land, to the knowledge, etc., etc. So yeah, let's say I've been about this for about 5 years now. It was within me, but I didn't have the ability to express, like you say. It's like it was sleeping inside of me. And then around 18 years old, it kind of woke up. It's always been a part of me, but it was dormant, it was sleeping, and now it's woken up and it's healthy and it's thriving and it's dominating my being. There we have a lime tree. You can see just the other day I put some compost below it because all plants of this family, like lime, orange, they need a lot of organic matter. And this is a tree that I didn't actually plant. You can see it's quite big. I've only been doing this garden for 2 years. So this is something my grandfather planted and it hasn't made fruit yet. So I'm trying to fertilize it and see if I can boost it up, because it hasn't got a lot of soil either. You see there's concrete there, So I think that might be part of the reason why it's maybe struggling to grow. And just underneath, we've got some aloe vera.
Aloe vera.
Which is an excellent medicinal plant for various things. Blood pressure, for cleaning the system, like detox, for skincare, when you have a burn, and also for diabetes. You know, this aloe vera it is medicinal for so many different things, and it doesn't require a lot of care. You can see it's under a wall, covered by trees, it's barely seeing any light, and it's thriving nonetheless, you know. This is the second part of the medicinal and edible garden all around the mango tree. This is some more sweet cassava. I think this will be ready in 2 or 3 months. Right next to the sweet cassava, we've got a lime tree, which makes a very peculiar kind of lime. See that? It's like a lime, but an orange at the same time. Like, you see, it's got segments. It's a very bizarre thing. Like,
is it good?
I mean, it depends, man. You have to try it to know. I eat them. I enjoy them. Go on.
It's really sour.
Yeah, but you can imagine that it would be very powerful, like as a cleanser, and
yeah, it's good.
My grandfather used to use it to season fish.
Okay.
Yeah. Since it's behind me, I may as well show you guys sweet sop tree, yeah, or in Kreyòl, pomme cannelle. This is the cousin of the soursop or the corossol. So this is a very nice little fruit. None of them are ripe at the moment. They're still quite young. And this is also a medicinal leaf. The leaf of this tree is good for diabetes. I read this just the other day. You see this leaf here? If you make this in a tea with the right dose, it will actually help your body produce insulin as a diabetic. It will stimulate the production of insulin. I read this just the other day. And like I said, these are not things that I invented. These are not things that my grandmother told me. These are things that I've read in books published by scientists.
Okay.
And I think it's very important for the Caribbean to know this kind of stuff. Underneath our pomme cannelle tree there, we've got some young herbs that I planted recently. This is a carpenter's bush, which is very young, as you can see. It's the same plant I was talking about earlier, the anti-inflammatory one. I planted this because I realized that people actually need this, and it's quite rare, and I don't even have enough to supply the people around me with, you know, sometimes it's like I give to one person, I give to 2 people, because you never know when someone's gonna get injured. Okay. And then it's like I haven't got enough left, so I want to have as much carpenter's bush as possible, because you never know when you're going to need it.
Carpenter's bush, how do you say in French, do you know?
Zeb charpentier or herbe charpentier.
Okay, I got that. Oui.
It's literally the same name, but
yeah.
And believe you me, the carpenter's bush is more powerful than anything they sell in the pharmacy. And I've had this experience personally with my family members who had swelling and pain and tried to use the pharmacy things first and were not getting any relief. And then I said to them, why are you being like that when you know I have medicinal bush and you didn't even ask me? And then I took the carpenter's bush for them, and ever since then they've been singing the praises of the carpenter's bush because they felt the relief of the carpenter's bush. So we need to keep on planting carpenter's bush. It's becoming very rare. I was told that in the past, everybody in the olden times, like they say in Creole, en temps longtemps, all the people in Guadeloupe had carpenter's bush, Zeb charpentier, at their home because they didn't have a pharmacy to go to when they were injured. Today it's hard to find carpenter's bush, so that's why I'm starting to plant more and more of the carpenter's bush. This is like a little line of herbs which I planted just recently. And then just behind we have some rosemary, which is an excellent herb for the respiratory system. And it's also said that if you take the rosemary and you take the scents, like it's good as an aromatherapy. They said it stimulates memory. If you have memory problems, if you take the scent of rosemary as aromatherapy, it will actually stimulate your memory and help to keep it working properly. You know, that's what I've been told. That one is not necessarily that's not something I got from a book, you know.
You haven't read it yet.
Not yet, but I take the tradition very seriously, you know, because everything that goes into science was in our tradition first. Like before there was a science book to confirm that soursop leaf is good for sleep, or that carpenter's bush is anti-inflammatory, etc., etc. Our ancestors were already using them for those things before there was ever a lab or a scientist or a book published to confirm the information, you know. So I'm holding that information in my head, and I'm waiting for the day that I see a scientist come out and say that smelling rosemary will improve your memory. So yeah. So under the mango tree, I have my little nursery. At the moment, I'm mainly planting cocoa. They've suffered a little bit with the heat recently, as you can see. I wasn't here for a little while, so they've lacked a bit of water. So there's been a bit of burning on the cocoa trees, but they're gonna be okay. I'm gonna make sure they get as much shade as possible and as much water, and they will continue to grow, because cocoa is a crop that appreciates humidity, that appreciates shade, and it's actually indigenous to the Caribbean. So before Christopher Columbus, before them French people and English people and all those Spanish and them came here, cocoa was already being cultivated by the Kalinagos in Guadeloupe. And I try to plant a lot of indigenous stuff because they are adapted to the soil, they are adapted to the climate, you know. So all of this will be going into my second garden. This is a little patchouli. It's another herb which is excellent for anxiety. You can either use the tea, or you can use it like an aromatherapy. It's excellent for depression and anxiety. Little lime tree that I planted, that I'll also be carrying into my agroforestry system. Something which is very rare in Guadeloupe, this is what they call jackfruit.
Nice.
In French is jacquier, I believe.
Yes.
This is an excellent fruit, very nutritious. It's considered a superfood.
Well, in Guadeloupe for sure, we don't have a lot of jackfruit. I don't think it's popular out here. But when I watch like Ras Kitchen or on the YouTube or other in Jamaica, it's really popular.
They have a lot more.
Yeah.
I think it would be good if it became cultural or traditional, because the jackfruit tree is very nutritious. Like I said, it's considered a superfood. Like you said, you can use it for like meat replacements. Nowadays, the vegan movement, they eat a lot of jackfruit because its texture is kind of similar to meat. Yeah. And the seeds are also edible. You can eat the seeds, like, you know how Guadeloupe people eat Jadin? Yeah. The jackfruit seeds, you can eat them the same way. Yeah. And the leaves, the jackfruit is also amongst the plants that I saw in my book can fight against diabetes. So there's at least 3 reasons why we should be cultivating and eating jackfruit in Guadeloupe. There we have some lettuce that I just got from the garden store. I don't know where I'm gonna put it. Nice though. I'm the kind of guy, like, sometimes I can't resist getting plants, and then I'm not sure where I'm gonna put them because I don't necessarily have the space. So let's walk along this way so I don't forget anything, and we'll just go along like that. So there we've got some more cosmos. It's for bringing the bees into the garden, as I explained earlier. And it's also very aesthetic. You know, I feel like when you have colors in your garden, it's good for your mental health. When you wake up in the morning and you see these bright, vibrant orange colors. I mean, these are orange, but you also have yellow cosmos. You know, they're right next to these nice little flowers. It's good for your mental health to see these bright colors on a daily basis. You can see I put a lot of organic matter onto the ground, and that's mainly for 2 reasons. The first reason is it makes the grass and the weeds grow slower, and it's also because over time that will decompose and will enrich the soil. So I don't know if you notice, like, most of my garden, I either let the weeds grow or I try to cover it with organic matter, because when you observe a natural ecosystem, you don't ever see naked soil. When you go into the forest, you will struggle to find naked soil. You will always find something covering the soil. But a lot of gardeners, when you go to their garden, the soil is naked. But soil was not made to be naked. Soil should not be exposed to the sun. Soil should not be exposed to the wind. Because the wind and also water cause what we call erosion, which little by little will take away all the richness of the soil. The United Nations actually says that in 50 years or so, we will have no more topsoil on planet Earth, because soil erosion is just taking away all the nutrients slowly. And that is because we have farming systems in place which are not sustainable, which are centered around profit, too much, the kind of farming systems that come into place with the Industrial Revolution, big monocultures, and they don't resemble ecosystems, and the soil is naked. So erosion, it's not good. If you come a little further, this is a moringa tree.
Yes, love it.
This is known as the miracle tree. It's got many benefits. The leaves are very nutritious, and when it grows into a big tree, it will make seeds, and those seeds can be used to purify water. The moringa tree can also grow in drought. So in parts of the world, like in Africa and Asia, where they have malnutrition, droughts, and also unclean water, they are planting moringa trees as a solution, because moringa is nutritious, moringa can purify water, and moringa can grow in the drought. So moringa can solve all three of those problems that we have in some regions of the globe just with one tree. That is the power of nature. So I planted 3 in my garden here. I'll show you the other one later. One of them unfortunately was killed off by the ants, because this is one of the ants' favorite foods. So I actually have been putting a homemade antifungal spray, but I've been spraying them with we have an antifungal plant in Guadeloupe which the locals call dattier. Scientifically it's called cassia lata, and it's antifungal, and that can keep the ants away, because the ants, when they come, and the leaf cutter ants, when they come and eat up your plants, I'm saying that I'm in contradiction with myself. They're not eating your plants. They're cutting off the leaf, and they're carrying those pieces of the leaves underground to the nest, where they will make a pile, and out of that pile will come a mushroom, and that is actually what they eat. So those leaf cutter ants are the only species on Earth which are farmers just like us. So by putting that antifungal spray on the natural homemade antifungal spray, I have observed that the ants stay away, because the ants, they don't want to eat the plants, they want to use it to create mushrooms. Look at that nice yellow peppers, a few more there. And just here we've got what we would call efferalgan, and this is an excellent plant for when you have a headache. When you have a headache, you can make a tea from this, or you can even take 1 or 2 leaves and just crush it. I mean, when I have a headache, I would take 1 or 2 leaves and I'll crush it, and you take the scent as aromatherapy, and it goes straight past the blood-brain barrier right into the brain. And I swear to God, I don't know about for other people, because for everybody it's a little bit different with the same medication, but when I have a headache, if I crush this leaf and leave that under my nose, in 10 seconds I have no more headache. That's my experience. You have to experiment for yourself, but for me it works, so it's always important for me to have that. Up here we've got some bananas, 2 bunches of bananas. This one is younger, and that one is nearly ready to be chopped down. Very good crop for food security.
Yes.
Because you plant it once and it will make babies and continue to grow. So once you've planted it once, it will continue to grow. This is zepina, or spinach, or Jamaicans call it callaloo.
Callaloo.
Yeah,
nice.
Jamaicans call it callaloo. Like across the Caribbean, we've got like a million different kinds of callaloo. Like callaloo to a Haitian, callaloo to a Guadeloupean, and callaloo to a Jamaican. It's 3 different things, but it tends to be a green vegetable. So this is for Jamaicans callaloo, for Guadeloupeans zepina. Scientifically, it's amaranth. It's from the Amarantaceae family. It's our younger callaloos, and this is how they look when they're younger, when they're full of life. They haven't yet made seeds. Very rich leaves that you can mix up with saltfish, or with anything you like. The more you cut it, if you come and see, right, you see it has this stem here, and it has these little leaves there and there. So you see, if I just cut that there, this and this will now grow out to become new stems. You understand? So
yeah.
I can cut this. It's like callaloo is one of those crops. It's like the more you cut it, the more it gives you. You know, it's almost like a miraculous crop. It's like the more you cut it, the more it gives you. If you don't cut it, it will just grow up straight and thin and skinny and give you seeds in no time. But when you cut it, all those little leaves that I was showing you, they will shoot out, because I've already cut this many times. And every time I cut it, you know, it shoots up, and give it even a week, even less, and you will have beautiful callaloo to eat in no time.
So do you cook also? Do you use your garden?
Yeah, I mean, I do eat local stuff that I cook. I'm probably not as good of a chef as I am a gardener, but I can make a meal, you know. Something like this, I might make it with rice, or I might make it with moru, with saltfish.
Yeah.
You know, so my garden encourages me to cook, because on a day that I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to cook, because I have this in the garden, I will end up cooking because I don't want it to waste. So my garden actually encourages me to cook. Because this is one of the principles of the Kreyòl garden. We mix a lot of different plants together. And this goes back to your question, why do you plant the way you plant? There is a scientific reasoning behind it. You see, for example, on this little patch here, I've got 3 crops. I've got yams, I've got spinach or zepina or callaloo, and I've got peanuts or pistache in Creole. So the yams, they take a while to grow. They take 6 months at least to produce food. That's a long time to wait, and to be waiting 6 months and have the land occupied and not producing anything for 6 months is a lot of time if we want to be self-sufficient with food. So whilst I'm waiting for the yam to produce food, I'm cutting callaloo, because callaloo grows fast. So whilst I'm waiting on the yam, the callaloo is feeding me. And in the meantime, here we have the peanuts. Like I explained earlier, the peanuts have the ability to capture atmospheric nitrogen and put them into the soil. So the peanuts, they are growing and fertilizing both the callaloo and the yams. And not only are they doing that, they're also going to produce food. So when I dig up my yams, I will dig up pistache at the same time. So this is like the way that our ancestors used to plant to, how would I say, efficiently use the land, get the most yield from a small piece of land as possible. Because in the Caribbean, we're small islands, we don't have big pieces of land. So we need to efficiently use our land, efficiently use our water, efficiently use the nutrients. So this is the best way that I find to plant, is by mixing different things together strategically, so that you can produce, you know, you can have callaloo while you're waiting for your yam, so that your peanuts can fertilize your callaloo and your yam, you know, while you're waiting for 6 months. Right in front of the yams, I just planted the other day 2 little gozé. In English is sorrel. I mean, locally people use it to make tea and to make juice.
During Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, especially at Christmas time. Like this should be ready for Christmas time. Is that, I mean, here they're young. But when this grows, these leaves are actually edible. Because in African cultures, they eat these leaves like spinach. They are edible and they are nutritious. And another fun fact about this plant is that it's the same family as okra or gombo in Creole. They're the same, when you see them flower, I don't know if you've ever noticed, the flower looks identical. The gombo flower, the okra flower, and the gozé flower.
I don't think I've ever seen a gumbo flower, to be honest with you.
Have you seen a gozé flower?
Yes, for sure.
They look exactly the same, because they're the same family.
Okay.
They come from Africa. These are amongst the plants which the Africans brought to Guadeloupe, because they come from Africa. And then here we've got some sugar cane. Another classic. Another classic. This has been here since my grandfather planted it. And similar to the bananas, it just kind of takes care of itself, you know. When you chop it, it will grow back, you know, and it'll give you sweet cane to enjoy. If you want, we can chop one in a little while. And then I'll show you just behind. We're nearly at the end of the garden. We've got another sweet cassava tree. I don't know if you noticed, but it's a little bit taller than the other ones.
Yes.
Because it's got less light. You see the sugar cane, the bananas, so it's climbing to find the light. That's the interesting thing about plants, is they look for the light, they adapt to their environment. Here we've got what we call gotin, or big leaf thyme, or some call it French thyme, or Cuban oregano. Now this is a medicinal herb which you can use for seasoning, because it has the same scent as the standard thyme which we're used to finding. You know this plant?
Yeah.
It's by the smell.
So I have this one.
Yeah, so they look very similar, but it's by the smell that you confirm which one it is.
Yeah.
Because this smells like thyme and that one smells like dolipan. Don't get confused. So this is, I've been told, is good for when you have cough. You can drink this in tea. And I've also been told that, you see inside this leaf there's water, and when you squeeze it out, let me see if I can squeeze it out for you there. Hold on.
Oh wow.
Hold on. You see those little drops coming out?
Yes.
If you gather enough of that and you rub it on your skin, it will keep mosquitoes away from you. You know, you would have to be quite patient, as you can see. But you know, I've been told that rubbing that on your skin, the scent would keep mosquitoes away from your skin. I've got my water tank, which is quite important because I try to not use the tap water when I water my garden. This catches rainwater off the roof of the garage, and that's natural rainwater which I can use to water my garden with my little watering can. So that means that I can water my garden without paying water bills, you know, without it contributing to my water bills, and also have water that is more pure than the tap water. And also in Guadeloupe, we don't always have tap water, so it's best to have a tank, especially if you have a garden, so that you can, you know, so that you can always have water, or at least when there's rain, you will have water. This is July mango,
yeah.
But it's also that this tree has been pruned quite a few times. You see there, it's actually been pruned quite a few times. So that's also why it's small, because it's being controlled. Beautiful mangoes. Delicious July mangoes. And the leaves of the tree are also medicinal for various things. Off the top of my head, I know it's good for stones, when you have stones in your stomach.
What is one tree or bush that you would love to add to your garden? That's
there's
a good
many,
question.
man. Like one that comes to mind is Zebapik. I don't know what the English name is, but it's a very powerful herb for when you have the flu. Off the top of my head, that is one bush that I would like to have. But I mean, there's a million bushes or trees that I would like to have if I had the space. Because like I said, I'm somebody, I would like to have everything, you know?
For the Zebapik, let's shout out Dr. Henry
Joseph. Yeah,
for sure,
he's one of the guys that really spread a lot of knowledge about the plant during COVID, and even from before then. I study his works quite a lot.
Bushman, I want to say it was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me too.
Yeah, keep doing what you do. Hopefully this can help other Guadeloupean and young people like you to realize how benefit and wonderful it is to cultivate this kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope I can inspire people in Guadeloupe and further than Guadeloupe, even in Dominica, in Grenada, in Trinidad, in Jamaica, in Haiti, in Venezuela, in Colombia, and all over the world, across the Caribbean and the world. I hope I can inspire people to get closer to nature, use medicinal plants, eat local food, eat seasonal foods. If I could inspire even just 10% of the people, or even 1% of the people who will see this video to do that, then my mission is accomplished, you know. And I hope also that you can come and see my second garden before you leave.
Hopefully we'll try to make that happen.
Yeah, because it's been a pleasure doing it. This is a smaller garden, the other one is bigger, and it will be more of a challenge.
En ballant la parole, en battant à Kreyòl.